Tamara Fenton on trial for a murder she says she didn't commit. But today, Newcastle Supreme Court heard otherwise. Co-accused 35-year-old John Evans took to the stand, claiming Fenton is responsible for the bashing death of 65-year-old Leslie Wallace. The retired architect was the victim of a sustained and forceful attack in his Terrigal unit back in December 2015, after allegedly being confronted by Fenton and Evans. The jury had previously been told Fenton and Evans had gone to the Willoughby Road unit to rob a low-level drug dealer known as Santa Claus, but he had recently moved out and Mr. Wallace was in the process of moving in. Fenton and Evans have told conflicting versions to police, each blaming the other for the deadly assault. But in a series of heated exchanges, Fenton's barrister Paul Rosser QC labelled Evans a liar, telling him, "You say all types of things at different times, don't you?" An increasingly agitated Mr. Evans replied, "Yeah, whatever." The trial is expected to run until the end of the week. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Last month's bushfire emergency in the Hunter. Those affected still counting their losses.
We did have unprecedented amount of fires throughout the Hunter Valley in September, so for the majority of the areas they weren't even in bushfire season.
Now the Climate Council is warning bushfire seasons in New South Wales will continue to intensify.
We are seeing longer fire seasons starting earlier and lasting longer and being more severe.
A new report has found the state's bushfire costs are likely to more than double by mid-century to more than $100 million a year, while above normal fire potential is projected for across the Hunter. October officially marks the start of storm season, and the RFA says large bushfires are usually caused by lightning strikes. Recent data by NRMA Insurance reveals the Hunter is in the top 5 most storm-affected regions in New South Wales, making up 5% of claims.
Up until maybe November, there's a possibility it might be a little bit wetter than normal. But, I mean, what's normal now? It changes so much.
And rain presents its own challenges.
During rainfall, of course, the fuel gets wetter and less able to be burnt, but we also get more vegetation growth.
Talia Sav, NBN News.
An open forum about an intensely personal subject.
We're bringing the voluntary assisted dying bill to the community to allow them to have a look at it, to get their feedback on it. That improves the bill everywhere we go.
We're going to have a respectful discussion, and I'm sure we'll get some opinion on both sides.
There was an historic moment in Victoria's Parliament last week as Lower House MPs approved a voluntary euthanasia bill. Next month, the New South Wales Upper House will also debate one.
Essentially at the heart of this bill lies consent and consent of the person. You must be 25 years of age, you must be terminally ill and be in pain and suffering with a reasonable expectation of 12 months to live.
It's a subject set to test all parties. Upper House MPs are predicting a tight vote. If passed, the bill will then be referred to the Lower House.
It's always hard to tell with a conscience vote, but we wouldn't be bringing this bill in unless we thought we had a good chance of getting it through the upper house and then through the lower house of the parliament.
Wallsend MP Sonia Hornery knows how she'll vote.
There is a point in a person's life where they're so ill that while palliative care is 100% important, that there are some illnesses that the pain is so insufferable that people need to have a choice about their end.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
At the moment there's around about 18,000 kids in care in New South Wales. A large proportion of those are in the Hunter area, and we desperately need carers to be able to fulfil the care needs of those children and provide a safe home for life.
They were his idols. The architects of Australia's modern music landscape and masterminds behind John Paul Young's hit songs.
I was 21 years old and here I had a song written by two of the greatest songwriters I'd ever heard of, apart from Lennon and McCartney.
News of George Young's death sent shockwaves through the music industry yesterday, JP White leading the tributes to one of his beloved mentors.
Without Vanda and Young, I wouldn't have a career. There was only one very important time when he schooled me in a song, and that was Love Is in the Air, and he made sure that the feeling that he wanted to impart on the airwaves was exactly right.
Today it was revealed that iconic song will be added to the National Film and Sound Archive Hall of Fame.
Overwhelming for me, and to be put alongside Louis the Fly and these other iconic things about Australia it's just mind-blowing.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
It feels great that we won. Our team just played well together. We just played the right way, and we got the win. I'm just happy we got our first one.
These latest American imports have only just arrived, but they're wasting no time, hitting number 2 sports ground with their new teammates for the first time this afternoon. For Aaron Gilliland, it's familiar territory, having played a starring role for the Jets last year.
From the moment I left last year, I was telling Deansy, I was like, there's no doubt in my mind I want to come back.
The Chicago player admits she did field offers from other W League clubs, but she's already very happy she came back to Newcastle.
I didn't jump in the first training, and I was just sitting there watching as a bystander, and the way the girls were moving the ball, the touches on the ball this year were just, it was so much more quality than it was last year.
For Tori Huster, it's also a homecoming of sorts. The Washington Spirit midfielder played 3 seasons for the Jets from 2012, but stayed in the US the past 2 years.
Definitely just want to play simple. That's the kind of player I am, and just provide some consistent play.
It's an opportunity for some consistent game time for keeper Britt Eckerstrom. She's looking to continue her winning ways after claiming the NWSL Championship with the Portland Thorns 10 days ago.
This is a really exciting time for women's soccer here in Australia, so I'm looking forward to it.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Seven days after a marathon, this was only supposed to be an easy run.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. It did hurt a little bit, so I'm glad we got there.
The way Sullivan is rising through Australia's running ranks, it should never have been in doubt. Last weekend, she ran just her 3rd marathon in Melbourne, and it didn't take her long to move to the front. First working in a pack before Celia and her mentor Scott Westcott went it alone, opening up a big lead. The Rio Marathon competitor setting the pace as well as providing moral support. Her winning time, 2 hours, 29 minutes and 28 seconds, half an hour faster than where she started the year, but still 13 seconds short of a Commonwealth Games berth. She won't try and set a new time before the event.
No, look, it's just such a strong period in women's marathoning at the moment. Really exciting. I mean, if the opportunity came up, I'd absolutely love to go, but it's very unlikely, so I'm not sort of looking towards that.
Westcott wants to see the 25-year-old work towards an international marathon next year and begin the road to Tokyo qualification. There could also be a run at the Half Marathon World Championships, but Sullivan isn't sure what's next. In the short term, potentially a return to triathlon over summer.
I think the mix of doing the swim, bike and run has worked well for me this year.
Leanne and Tiffany Ann Loffrey, like mother, like daughter.
Ms. Loffrey, would you like to say anything?
No.
Do you regret what you've done?
No comment.
The pair from Hunterview near Singleton today admitted to trying to have a woman killed. The intended victim, the new partner of Leanne's ex-husband and Tiffany Ann's father, Leanne Keaton.
No comment.
Mate, if you don't back off, it's going to go in your face.
Both women face Newcastle local court pleading guilty to the charge of solicit to murder. According to court documents, 46-year-old Leanne attempted to have one man carry out the murder of Ms. Keaton between March and October last year. In September, both Leanne and Tiffany Ann solicited a different man in a second attempt to have her killed. The pair remains on bail and will return to court next month for sentencing. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News. Laid bare just a fraction of the haul from an inner-city drug raid. Bags upon bags of cannabis taken from a building in the heart of Newcastle yesterday morning.
We discovered a large grow house in commercial premises.
More than 300 plants and dozens of kilos of dried cannabis were seized by officers, the product of a sophisticated hydroponic operation powered off the grid.
It's an elaborate setup, a number of systems in place, irrigation, heating, lighting.
Today, police were back at it, dismantling the purpose-built drug lab, the type usually found hidden in suburbia.
Yeah, it is a bit slightly unusual to find one in commercial premises in the middle of the city. Yes, I'd agree with that.
Police warn the investigation is ongoing and anyone with information is being urged to come forward. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
The state government bills it as a new beginning, delivering hundreds of jobs to Cessnock.
You've got 70 new jobs that will be permanent after the completion of this particular jail, but in the lead up to it, there's nearly 300 construction jobs that will be made available.
The 330-bed expansion at the jail is in addition to the new 400-bed maximum security section. But missing from today's formalities, Cessnock Mayor Bob Pinsent, who only found out about the event through the media.
That's their prerogative. I'm fine with that.
He's been vocal about the community's concerns regarding the project, which he says are being ignored by the government.
The adjoining residences can have vision of the buildings at present, and the other one is the construction of an alternative entrance. It's still on council-owned roads. That means the ratepayers are paying for the maintenance of the facility.
Well, I'm in constant contact not only with the council and the mayor, but the other councillors. I'm comfortable at the moment that any negative impact on Cessnock has been addressed and it will be mitigated.
We sent an email earlier this month and raising the concerns about the screening and the access, and at this point corrective services have not replied to that.
Work is expected to be complete by mid-2019. Emma Murphy, NBN News. A Lake Macquarie workyard, now a second home for these passionate volunteers.
They turn up 3 days a week, 7 or 8 hours a day, bring their lunch.
This 1944 Catalina, the main attraction, while its restoration is slowly progressing.
Yeah, big challenge, but yeah, it won't beat us.
The 8,000 kilogram aircraft has come a long way since it was first purchased by the group 4 years ago.
Sheet metal work is the prime one. There's a lot of corrosion. The aircraft sat out in Puerto Rico exposed for nearly 15 or 16 years.
The project is slated for completion by 2020, with the group in talks with Lake Macquarie Council over the plane's future beyond that. An enclosed display at the former Rathmines airbase is on the cards.
It's one of the things that will draw tourists there and make it the wonderful park it should be. Just deciding of where it's going to be, discussions are taking place.
The Catalina was one of the most widely used seaplanes of World War II. Today, only a handful remain. This Sunday's Catalina Festival at Rathmines Park will help support the restoration project.
It's a wonderful day. The flying starts with the RAF Roulettes, the Air Force aerobatic team, at 11:30.
Talia Sav, NBN News.
First session back without marquee Ronald Vargas, star power Ernie Merrick may not replace.
Lots of agents have been in touch already, so we'll go through them. I'm not overly optimistic that, first of all, that we need someone, but I'm very optimistic that we actually have got a good squad and we can fill his place pretty well.
Wayne Brown is the obvious choice, but Merrick didn't want to give too much away about who will fill Vargas's shoes, saying the Jets have plenty of options.
Demi can play in that role, as has Wayne Brown, and Joe Champness, every time he's come on, he's looked very threatening.
As for the Venezuelan international, the club says it's doing everything in its power to make sure he has a speedy recovery.
Not only will he stay in Newcastle, but we're going to fly his parents out. He's professional enough to make sure that his rehab programme, he sticks to it and he works hard, and he'll definitely be back with us for the finals. That's what we believe.
Defender Ivan Vujitsa was among those on light duties today, but he should be right for Sunday's clash with the Wanderers. Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
Surfest 2018's first event, a packed room, one of the sport's biggest names. Everyone was there, except for the lucky business randomly drawn as the naming rights sponsor.
That's how busy and successful they are, so we can announce it is the Grandstand Sports Injury Centre.
It'll be the third year Surfest Women's event has been crowdfunded, a format that's unlikely to change. It has the backing of Lane Beachley, a star with a long association with the comp. It kick-started her career as an 18-year-old, and memorably, she surfed in the men's draw in 2004, facing Andy Irons and B. Durbidge in front of 20,000 people.
It's obviously a surf-soaked region, so you want to be able to bring events here and know that you've got the community support.
That'll be on show next weekend at the New South Wales Pro. The draw isn't yet released, but 7 Championship Tour surfers will take part, including Joanne Defay, Sage Eriksson, Tatiana Weston-Webb, Coco Ho and Bronte Macaulay.
It's a massive deal. People shouldn't underestimate it. I mean, there's a few girls who are on the cusp of qualifying, and the fact that Sally's event got cancelled, they were all thinking that their whole dream of making the World Tour was over, and then this event got put on.
Steph Gilmore won't make the trip, and while they're locked in a title battle, neither will Tyler Wright and Sally Fitzgibbons. A Surfest favourite, Fitzgibbons drew plenty of support today.
She's my one. Yeah, I hope she wins it. She deserves it. She's been around and done the hard yards.
I've always felt like she had a world title in her, and it's just a matter of time. So in saying that, Tyler's going to be pretty tough to beat considering she's been there before. She's a beware the injured lion.
These animals have been removed from the adults, and we're going to hand rear these, and then they'll be donated to other parks around New South Wales for successful follow-on breeding.
On its side and engulfed in flames, debris littering the road.
By the time we got here, there was other units. We had fire and rescue, SES were here,
ambulance, of course.
The carnage unfolded at around 1:30 this morning on the Pacific Highway at Karua. The semi-trailer rolled, spilling its contents of paper, cigarettes and drinks, which quickly went up in flames. The 54-year-old driver survived but suffered a significant head injury. Tonight he's in a stable condition in Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. With both northbound lanes of the highway closed, the focus quickly turned to clearing the mess, with excavators brought in to remove the charred rubbish.
We've just been making sure that the fire is completely out. As they're turning it over, we're just making sure that it is well and truly mopped up before it gets put onto the truck.
The clean-up operation involving Roads and Maritime Services and the Rural Fire Service is an extensive one. It's been going most of the morning and is likely to continue for several more hours before the road reopens. Traffic was diverted through Karua along Terrene Road for much of the day. The highway eventually reopened around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Renee Feder, NBN News.
The moment an alleged crime spree came to an end.
A 44-year-old man is in police custody at Raymond Terrace Police Station. He's assisting detectives with their investigations into a number of armed robberies that occurred in and around the Hunter.
Police allege the robberies began at Talara, where staff at a supermarket were robbed at knife point. An hour later, a pharmacy at the junction in Newcastle was held up, before officers arrested a 44-year-old man at a Shell service station at Heatherbrae.
The male, whom we alleged was in the process of committing a carjacking on a motorist who was refuelling his car at the service station. Concerningly, a firearm was located.
Police allege that same weapon was used in the hold-up at the junction. The manhunt spanning 3 suburbs, with swarms of police on the ground and in the air. Forensic officers spent the day at each of the 3 locations as part of their investigations. The 44-year-old is yet to be charged. Meredith Gibbs, NBN News. Performing inside a mechanic's workshop. But it's not just the location that's unique for this musical piece. The drum kit has been traded in for this 1958 Ford engine.
What we decided to do was pick out a really cool old school V8 engine and explore what sounds we can achieve when playing that instrument.
Percussionist Brandon Rondon up to the task. And how does this compare to other performances you've done?
Unique. Yeah, no, it's really fun. It's pretty cool. I haven't ever played an engine before.
The unique composition is the work of 4 musicians from the Newcastle Conservatorium of Music. The piece an ode to the upcoming Supercars event.
We just thought it'd be a really nice way to celebrate the 500 and really just again explore what sounds we can tamper with, what sounds we can create to understand that event from a music perspective.
After a few weeks of rehearsing, today it was recorded. It's set to be used at the event, which is now just 30 days away.
It's a simple matter of us just really getting a space and collaborating and really having some fun.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
From the start, it's been a beacon for beachgoers. And decades on, Redhead's Shark Tower continues to have pulling power. Built during the Depression in 1929 by relief labour for unemployed men, the timber structure has stood the test of time while others have disappeared.
Well, it's an iconic tower. It's probably the only one on the east coast of Australia, so it's quite significant.
These days, it's rarely used for its original shark spotting purpose, but with the striking setting against Redhead Bluff, it's a favourite spot for photographers and beachgoers alike.
It's getting old, so we had to do some structural work on that, and I'm pleased now that it's finished. Obviously, there's more work to be done. We need to make sure we preserve it to the future.
Council spent about $9,000 on repair work, sourcing timber similar to the original and using authentic construction techniques. It comes as a call goes out for locals to help protect other important sites by joining Council's Heritage Committee.
We have about 280 heritage sites around our city, and there may even be more. So we're saying to the community, if you have an interest in our heritage or cultural, please apply.
4 community positions are available to help promote and protect heritage into the future. If there was ever a cheeky seal, this is it. Slowly making its way back onto the sand at Bar Beach this morning, the New Zealand fur seal was attracting plenty of attention.
I was coming from a run from Bar Beach and saw the seal once I got to Bar. So I ran back to Mayweather, quickly grabbed my phone, ran back, and she's still here.
Oh, I just think he's adorable. I just hope he's okay.
The tired mammal first appeared at the beach late yesterday afternoon. After receiving a clean bill of health from Orca staff last night, it returned to the ocean early this morning, only to be spotted again soon after.
Injuries on this seal, and it looks like it's got a reasonable weight, so it looks like it's in healthy condition. It's just having a rest.
As the day wore on, more and more people arrived for a glimpse of the beach's newest attraction, which was happily soaking up the sun, enjoying the occasional splash as the tide rose. A National Parks and Wildlife ranger making sure onlookers kept their distance.
There's a 40-metre exclusion zone around the seal. National Parks and Wildlife says while it looks like it's pretty relaxed, if threatened, it will move incredibly quickly.
Seals are really large animals with quite sharp teeth, and they can move quite fast on land. It's really important not to get between the seal and water as well, because that's its escape route.
This afternoon, finally rested, the creature took to the waves. But we could see it or some of its friends in the near future, with experts saying the sight is more common than you might think.
So Newcastle not infrequently gets seals hauling out just to have a rest. It's just a natural behaviour. They'll do some fishing and hunting, and then they'll come out to the land to have a rest, to recover.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
A man of few words, Dimi Petratus prefers to let his football do the talking, and so far it speaks volumes. That screamer scored him A-League's goal of the week, his second in 3 games. He credits coach Ernie Merrick for helping develop his game.
Just give me little pointers, how to get in the box and work in the front third, so it's been good. He gives us a lot of encouragement in the taking third just to be creative in that, so I really enjoy that.
Running riot on the wing since his arrival, today he moved into the midfield and is expected to fill the shoes left by an injured Ronald Vargas.
It's slightly different, but I've played in the number 10 role before, so I feel comfortable there. And just play the game and see how it goes.
Petratus' switch saw Wayne Brown train on the wing, while rookie Johnny Katrumbis has been named among the extended squad for Sunday's clash against the unbeaten Wanderers.
They're playing good football, but just like with any team, we just got to work on their weaknesses and try and break them down.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
It had been a long time since Daniel Collins stepped onto a start line. 3 months, 2 weeks and 5 days to be exact, one of the longest spells of his career, and making an unassuming return to racing at Caves Beach earlier this month, he felt every part of that.
Fitness isn't really there yet, but it's always nice to get weight anyway.
One of the sport's rising stars, the 21-year-old is a renowned hard worker. This local race was nothing more than a training run before taking on the New Look National Series in Sydney this weekend. Unlike Collins' first series last year, the format has been changed to 6 rounds where anyone can enter. Only last year's top 6 are seeded into the finals of each stop. Collins was 7th.
It's taken sort of the professional aspect of our sport away. To take that away, I think, is sort of a backward step, but it's good that everyone gets the chance to race those professional guys as well, because a lot of the time they go sort of missing if they're automatically qualified and you only see them at the State Aussies and the Nutrigrain Series.
The new Ocean 6 series was revealed just 1 month ago, attracting criticism from the defending champion Matt Poole.
I've definitely been left in the dark, I've been left out. In fact, when they had their release, I found out via Facebook.
Collins shared a similar feeling.
It was sort of tough to see that on Facebook. I mean, there was sort of no communication between us and the organising bodies of what was going on and how it was moving forward. So to find that out was sort of a little bit tough to swallow, but I mean, I'm still excited. I did the qualifying last year. I'm ready to go again this season.
His redhead clubmate and last year's series wildcard Isaac Costello will also make his return to racing this weekend. He admits he was caught out by the short notice of the event, but is ready to race.
Na White, or Emily White as she's known, was described as a very successful businesswoman in court today. She's lived in Australia for 14 years. In that time, she's mothered 3 children, started 2 beauty salons and bought a number of properties right across Newcastle, including a Steel Street facility that was raided by police this week. Authorities say they seized a large number of cannabis plants and dismantled a sophisticated hydroponic setup 2 days before arresting the Vietnamese national. She's charged with knowingly directing the activities of a criminal group. The prosecution alleging she directed up to 6 other men to carry out the illegal activities at the property. While Miss White admitted she uses the facility's first floor as a storage area and visits several times a week, her lawyer told the court she rents out the top 2 floors and never goes up there. That's allegedly where the cultivation setups were found. A $50,000 cash bond is required in the coming days. It's included in her very strict bail conditions. They include staying at her Newcastle unit between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m, surrendering her Vietnamese passport, and she's been forced to pay an additional $100,000 cash bond to ensure she stays put. The matter will return to court on December 13.
Across the region, Mother Nature put on a spectacular light show. More than 30,000 lightning strikes, a dream come true for photographers and storm chasers.
There is the potential that this season could be really active. The previous 2 storm seasons have been quiet, but things are beginning to brew. It all comes down to the Pacific. It's a complicated equation.
Storm clouds rolled in late yesterday, slamming suburbs with hail the size of golf balls. While overnight, up to 60 millimetres of rain fell across the region. All up, the SES receiving more than 100 calls for help across the Hunter.
Most of those were related to the hailstorm that came through about 6:30 last night, and that resulted generally in damage to skylights and caused leaking roofs and so forth.
That hail was relatively soft form by the time it reached the surface. And that, I tell you, is a huge amount of luck, because if it had been slightly harder, the damage across the region would have been massive. It would have been a multi-million-dollar storm.
5,000 Hunter properties lost power. Ausgrid says the majority were back online by 9 this morning. Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
It's a long-awaited plan testing the patience of local police. The Central Hunter Command says it's still waiting for a guarantee on increased police numbers under the state government's re-engineering plan.
They want to make sure that they have time, date and place when those extra numbers are going to be delivered. Otherwise, the local police are willing to take industrial action to have their case heard.
It's understood the government is proposing for the Hunter Valley Local Area Command to take on Cessnock, while Central Hunter would join with Port Stephens. But Police Minister Troy Grant says there'll be no reduction in frontline policing, and re-engineering the force will put more police on the ground.
The Hunter Valley Police want to make sure they can protect the community, and at present, they know they need more staff to do this.
Wallsend MP Sonia Hornery says local police are feeling uncertain about their future.
We're looking at making sure that instead of an allocation of 83% of police officers going to Sydney and only 17% for the rest of New South Wales, that we deserve our share.
An announcement of the new policing structure will be made in the coming weeks. Talia Sav, NBN News.
Social media and the film industry, they're both changing at such rapid rates and they're kind of running parallel. So it's good to bring the two together and show my perspective and my involvement.
Champions of their respective codes, united behind a common cause: concussions in sport.
It's an area we need to look at and we need to monitor and be aware of the dangers.
It's comments like that from an all-time great that makes Dr. Andrew Gardner realise just how far the issue has come. Today's sold-out lunch was supporting his sports concussion clinic, not only a research centre, but also delivering the country's only free concussion assessment for sports people of all abilities.
What we do know is that there are between 5 to 7 concussions per team per season on average for rugby league and rugby union. Most people recover within 7 to 10 days, but they need to go through a management process where there's a graduated return to life and a graduated return to the sporting field.
But his current focus is about ensuring concussions don't occur in the first place. It's an issue dual international Tamana Tahu knows well. After suffering a run of head knocks during his time at Parramatta, a chance session with a mixed martial artist changed his footy forever.
Hanging around those athletes, it helped me create different moves and different tackle techniques that suited for myself, and I trialled them out over the years, and they've helped me become a good defender.
As a result, he didn't suffer another concussion in his code-hopping career. But it's only after spending the past 2 years in the US, playing and coaching rugby, he realised his style had a greater importance.
I've seen friends retire from head collisions and concussions, and you see kids being concussed and you see the worry on the parents' face. It's a big thing, and I want to be a part of helping the sporting community.
He's come up with 4 key tackling techniques. And after already teaching them to American football colleges, rugby league is next. Alongside Dr. Gardner, they've applied for an NRL grant to work with Harvard Medical School and test the techniques.
Basically what we're trying to do is to validate the tackling techniques, to demonstrate through evidence base that these are safer ways of tackling, and then we will continue to expand that program as it goes along, with the ultimate goal of rolling it out throughout community level.
Where kids can play without getting concussed and hurt, and professional players can prolong their career.
As the Sports Concussion Clinic's lunch heard today, there's no quick fix, although there are plenty of ideas.
I think there needs to be an independent doctor, and I would hate to think in a big game at a grand final, if a player like Jonathan Thurston came off with some sort of head knock, the pressure on the club doctor to make a decision.
Dr. Gardner believes it'll take a generation of players and research to come up with the answers. But as Tamana Tahu knows, this is a good place to start.
This is just a small step to hopefully to something big. The goal is to get more funding for research and take this thing seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the squad. Everybody that I wanted, bar Chloe, obviously, I can't complain about the squad. Got some really exciting young players still in the squad, but the experienced players for us this year will hopefully make a big difference and take us that little bit further than we did last year.
I like fighting undefeated fighters because for the rest of their life they remember me. I'm on the one on their record that annoys them. So it's just another challenge and another bit of excitement for this fight. Oh, I'm feeling really good. Training camp's been great. Feeling strong, ready to put on a show.
Face to face for the first time, one of sport's newest power couples, Poppy Olsen and her now mentor Lane Beachley, brought together by the Australian Sporting Hall of Fame.
They just obviously thought it would be the perfect marriage. She's a really grounded, talented, competitive young woman, and I love her I love her inner confidence, I love her tenacity, I love her work ethic and her ability to listen, and that's what it takes to succeed.
I think one of the biggest highlights of this year is not even the competition, has been teamed up with Lane.
And that's saying something. This year, Olsen's enjoyed incredible success, including bronze at the X Games and gold at the World Vert Championships in China. Big results, but there's one event in particular, with skateboarding now added to the 2020 Tokyo Olympics.
I mean, I've always wanted to go to the Olympics even before I started skateboarding. So now just to have my sport included into the Olympics is going to be amazing, and I think it's just going to be a really fun time for me, and training and really building up to try and achieve something is going to be really exciting for me.
We've all stood on the shoulders of others to be where we are today, and fortunately I've got strong shoulders for Poppy to stand on, and that's because I've stood on the shoulders of those who have been coming before me. So I'm really looking forward to working with her and helping her transform her potential into reality and see her fulfill her potential to become an Olympic champion.
Surf lifesavers had undertaken first aid to the lower leg injury, and there was also the reports of a RN currently on scene that was assisting lifesavers in the management.
Jim Dunkley has been a heavy vehicle driver for nearly half a century.
I started off at 15 as a diesel mechanic. Come out of my time, I wanted to learn to drive a truck.
He's part of an ageing workforce expected to leave a massive hole in the trucking industry.
There's over 60% of our drivers retire now in the next 4 to 5 years.
It's a concerning figure with dire consequences if those numbers aren't replaced. And that's becoming a struggle, according to the Newcastle and Hunter Road Transport Awareness Group.
The hardest thing we have coming through is to get young drivers motivated to want to become truck drivers.
Neil Webster started a driver training business locally 5 years ago. He's noticed a slump in young driver and female numbers.
In the Hunter area alone, we've got massive amount of opportunity for young people coming through. The amount of companies out there looking for truck drivers, right, is immense.
This year has seen one of the highest number of truck crashes in the state. Neil says it's a contributing factor to the driver shortage and the most important part of his training program. Truck safety will be the focus of Transport Awareness Day at Maitland Showground tomorrow.
To showcase you what the difference is and how much room we need. We want you to come and sit inside a truck, see what we can't see.
Talia Sav, NBN News.
It's a message worth stopping traffic for.
We're trying to draw attention to the importance of not only helping those with mental illness, but the support that's needed for carers.
starting in the Hunter Street Mall. Their purpose was clear: to break the stigma surrounding mental health and start a conversation. The 100-plus strong crowd finishing up at Civic Park.
It's really evolved over the years. When we first started, it was just a little idea.
The walk was led by Pauline Sessions. Her son Bernie, known as Mayfield's man in the doorway, took his own life in June after a long battle with paranoid schizophrenia. Today, the family walked in his memory.
We're all here just to support Bernie and to continue to encourage people to be aware of mental health and mental wellness.
His sister Jenny has become a voice for mental health. On Monday, she'll speak at a New South Wales government inquiry into the management of healthcare delivery.
I focused on mental health, just looking at getting the hotline triage, the mental health helpline triage, tweaked a little bit, and also give the carers a voice, more of a voice in the care of their loved one.
If you or anyone you know needs help, you can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
This year we're hoping to beat our record fundraising, over 20 grand.
It was spectacular even before the horses jumped. One of the favourites, Chautauqua, a late scratching at the gates. It meant less competition on the Moonee Valley track for In Her Time, the horse trained by the Hunter's own Ben Smith. Wearing yellow, the filly began the Matakato Stakes well and had what seemed like a nice run at the end, but came up a head short to outside chance Haydock. But that wasn't the end of the drama. In Her Time's team protested the result, arguing heavy contact 1,000 metres from the finish cost them the win. Smith, on the verge of training his first Group 1 winner, pleaded his case.
He wasn't entitled to be or to do what he done, and it's definitely cost us the race.
So too the jockey, Corey Brown, he said he was slowed.
I've got no doubt the margin that he's beat me would have been far greater, the interference that he's causing.
But their pleas fell on deaf ears. The protest was dismissed and Smith's search for a Group 1 win continues. Alex Heinke, NBN News. Three rounds into the season, defender Nikolai Topor-Stanley is still searching for a clean sheet. But off the field, he's kicking plenty of goals, becoming a father for the first time.
It's hard. It's amazing, but nothing can prepare you for it.
He'll have his hands full on the field tomorrow as well. He's against former club, the Western Sydney Wanderers. He captained the Red and Black for the majority of his 4-season stay there.
Faced a few former clubs in my time, so I just have to get used to it. I mean, I had a great time there, but that time's behind me.
It'll be the Wanderers' third game in 8 days. Talking from experience, Topor Stanley says they'll be ready.
He would have had them well drilled a long time before to be ready for this. He plans far in ahead.
With one end of the field hitting its straps, coach Ernie Merrick wants the other sorted. He wants the 32-year-old and his centre-back partner, Nigel Bogard, to not concede a goal, a job that's so far eluded them.
Ernie's kind of earmarked that he's not too happy with us conceding goals every game, which is, as a defender, I'm not too pleased about that either.
The Jets take on the Wanderers at 5 tomorrow afternoon in Newcastle. Alex Heinke, NBN News.